Assalamu alaikum. A question came how would you explain the dragons that are seen at the times of the Chinese, and they worship dragons, and then there are other accounts of dragons appearing in the sky, and there are so many civilizations that have reported dragons, and they worship them or they adhere them at a very high place in society. Well, we're talking about Jinn, so I would like to talk about a couple of things with you. Number one, Abu Thalib Khashni's report that we talked about last time, that Prophet ﷺ said that jinns are of three types, and one of them are flying jinns, then we have shape shifting jinns, which appear in different forms. So we looked at one of the narrations that comes in لقط المرجان في أحكام الجان by Imam Suyuti rahimahullah. Then we also looked at another narration from the same book, that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned names of a few animals and said that jinns appear in these forms, and in that list there were dogs, donkeys, camels, so there were reptiles, there were birds in that same list. So birds, dragons are actually flying reptiles, and so are birds. Now, let me bring another narration to you, which is in Hawatiful Jan, and Abu Thalaba reports it from Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said that three types of jinns exist, and one of them are flying jinns with wings. Another category are snake and scorpio, and the third one are walking, moving, shape-shifting. So flying jinns with wings, that category could very well easily categorize jinns appearing in different forms in front of humans. Or it could be birds, categorized as massive dragons. Now comes the question, why would they do that? Now, jinns have the same ego problem as humans do. Jinns have come to realize that we are not in the driving seat of this world, so we are not the Khalifa. Khilafah doesn't lie with us. However, humans with their weak faith have given jinns the Khilafah by bowing down to them, by worshipping them, by adhering them, and jinns feel good about it. That's why in the Arab societies there were jinns who would take over valleys because they knew that humans are scared of them. And when these travelers, human travelers, would go past these valleys, and if they do not utter the words that I want to come in the protection of the jinn of this valley, the jinn would start throwing away their stuff outside of the valley. Sometimes humans would be thrown outside of the valley just to scare them. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught humans certain words that will protect humans from the jinns. For example, Surah Al-Falaq, Surah An-Nas, similarly Surah Al-Baqarah, similarly one of the ayahs of Surah Al-Baqarah, which is Ayat Al-Kursi, and the likes of it. There are several different ones. However, these are some of the ones that are commonly narrated, recited to protect you from the attacks of jinns, especially from the shayateen category of jinns. So they would do that. There is another story narrated in the books of Sirah. Umar radiallahu anhu said that I was sitting by one of the idols, and jinns back in those days used to communicate from behind the idols, giving this idea that the idol is speaking, or the or divine speech around the idols would make people worship these idols. And jinns would do that to keep humans busy in idol worshipping, and then they would give their sacrifices to these idols, which would become meals for the jinns. That was pretty much their way of earning their livelihood. So Umar radiallahu anhu said that we were sitting by one of the jinns, one of the idols, and a couple of jinns spoke, and we overheard them, and that was on purpose that they spoke out loud. They did not have to speak out loud because they wanted to relay a message, and jinns used to relay messages to human beings. And this was a message that was revealed to humans of the coming of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is after Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam met Jibreel alayhi salam in the cave of Hira. And these two jinns are having this communication. In one narration it says, Ya dharihu. In another one it says, Ya jalihu. So there is a difference of words. Ya dharihu or Ya jalihu. Amrun najihu. Rajulun yasihu. بلسان فصيح يقول لا إله إلا الله. So these kind of things were heard very commonly. And then there were there were designated people in Mecca or in the Arabia who would claim to communicate with jinns. And then they would be called kahins. And people would approach them. They would live out in the wilderness. They would have special relations with the jinn. And when you look at them, you would be disgusted by their looks. They weren't living a very clean, healthy life. They were living rather a very filthy life. And for those of the kahins that accepted Islam, it was very evident when you look at them, you could see that they were once kahin because there were, some traces of their old lives on the human body, because you take a beating on the body and it shows. Very similarly, a person who is a druggie, it messes up their skin, it just messes up their system. So even though after cleaning themselves from the drug abuse life, they still can show traces of their past. Anyway, so the jinns might have appeared to the humans in forms that the humans would find massive, gigantic, and would then start praising them, worshipping them. Because jinns not necessarily have to reveal themselves to us. As we learn that in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that they and their tribes look at you from a dimension where you cannot see them, but they can see you. And then in the Quran and the Hadith, we also learn that these jinns can shape shift out of their dimension into our dimension by taking a risk that after they do a shape shift, if they die after shape shift, they will die. Very similar to the story that happened in the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where a man killed a snake in his house, thinking it was a snake, and the snake then killed the man back with biting the man and through the venom. So, and then it was later on revealed, Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that your companion killed a jinn companion, thinking that it was a snake, and in retaliation it killed him back. So both passed away. Anyway, long story short, it is possible. Some people link this to portals, and they say, well, sometimes certain doorways might have opened through which beings from other worlds might have appeared in our world and then would have disappeared back in their worlds. Allah knows best. Allah knows best. Anyway, I hope that somewhat shed light on the question that came this way. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.